Hello, and welcome to the Sharper Shiv podcast. I am Shiv Reddy, your host, and this is episode 3. We are going to be counting down the days for football, which is in a couple of hours. So we got our first preseason game here, the Las Vegas Raiders and the Jacksonville Jaguars. But before that, we got to take care of business here. So we are going to break down the NFC East and AFC East today. It's a bunch of competitive divisions. I'm going to try to do two divisions at a time here just to get ready for the start of the season. I want to be able to record the 5 picks that I do for Circa the week before, and it looks like the timing is going to work out that way. A lot of research has been done. A lot of research has to be done. And, I want to spend my time and make sure I make the best picks for you guys. So thank you again for all the family and friends that have been supporting me. It's been a journey trying to get everything up and running. I got the mic again. I got the headphones. I got everything going for me, the camera. So looking to finally get some, podcasts going. Trying to find a podcast software still. But let's see what's out in the market. Anyways, let's dive right into it. So we have the NFC East that's first on the docket here. So we got the Philadelphia Eagles, the Dallas Cowboys, the Giants, and the Washington Commanders. So let's break down the Eagles. The Eagles started off the season pretty slow last year, but they really picked it up towards the tail end of the season. They got some really crucial wins away from home, and they really got it clicking with Jalen Hurts. They had a little bit of QB controversy in the beginning of the season, but I think that that all fizzled out. Gardner Minshew will play the second string, and Jalen Hurts is going to be over there heading up the first string. So it looks to be like this season is one for the making, to be honest. They got some really good key additions. They bought in A.J. Brown from the Titans, who is a dynamic playmaker and receiver. So he's going to be great alongside Devontae Smith and Quez Watkins in the receiving corps. They got James Bradbury and Jaquizy Tart, as well as Kaiser White for the defense. So they finally have a Mike linebacker that's going to call some great plays for this receiving core. They got rid of Singleton, who was quite honestly a mediocre performer for that Eagles defense. He gave up a lot of plays. So Kaiser White's going to be a great response for that. Jaquizy Tart from the safety position. He's a big playmaking, play-hitting safety that they've just acquired from the Niners, so he's going to be great. And James Bradbury is a lockdown corner, as you've seen with the Giants. He had a couple of great seasons with leading the league at some points with interceptions. So it looks like this team is off to a great start. They had a great draft, A-plus draft. They really added some depth on their side, but it looks like the O-line is still intact. They're going to be a lot of playmakers on this offensive side, including the quarterback. And, this team's going to be as good as their quarterback is. But I think Jalen Hurts is really going to develop into a star. He was a one-read quarterback a lot last year. Obviously, it was his first season at the helm, so I think if he progresses into making 2 reads, especially with dynamic receivers like Devontae and AJ, it's going to be really a tough team to stop on the offensive line. So Philadelphia Eagles, they sit at over-under 8.5. I really like the over in this one. I think that they can go ahead and actually win this division. And we'll get into the Cowboys later, but the Cowboys are like the only team that could put up a fight here, I think, from a NFC East division perspective. But they do have a lot of injuries, which we'll dive into in a second. But I do like the Philadelphia Eagles over 8.5. I think this is a good bet for especially for this year. I think the coaching staff has it all together, and I think Jalen Hurts is going to be a really good fit for this offensive scheme. So I am going to take the Philadelphia Eagles over 8.5. All right, next up we got the Dallas Cowboys, and the Dallas Cowboys sit at over under 10.5. This team, they lost some offensive line depth, which is going under the radar. I think they lost Connor Williams at the center position for the Dallas Cowboys, and that offensive line was really shaped around him and his decision making with Dak Prescott. I think we're going to see a lot of lapse in the offense. They lost some key wide receivers in training camp to injuries. Their second wide receiver looks like right now is James Washington, which is not that good. I mean, CeeDee Lamb is explosive, but James Washington was playing third or fourth fiddle in Pittsburgh with Ben Roethlisberger, which is not that great last year. So I think you're going to see a drop-off in the offense. The defense looks like it's going to be healthy. They did lose a couple of edge rushers in DeMarcus Lawrence, which we covered in an earlier podcast. But I think that this team is destined to be a middle-of-the-pack team, to be honest. I don't think I see them going and exceeding 10.5 wins. Mike McCarthy always underperforms in his second season. You saw that with the Green Bay Packers when they went a modest 12-4 in his first seasons, and then they kind of dropped off a little bit, had a little drop-off with Rodgers so in the offensive game plan. So I think we're going to see the Dallas Cowboys go under this 10.5. I think the Cowboys are not as good as people think they're going to be this year, and you're going to see a huge drop-off here. So I think they'll win 8 games, but I wouldn't be surprised if they win 7, to be honest, because you're playing the Bengals, the Bucks, and the Rams, and that's what you get for winning the division. You play the division winners, right, in a couple of the conferences. So it looks like this team's going to go under the win total. So I would bet the under here. Next up, we have the New York Giants. So the Giants went 4-13 last year. Very mediocre season. Giants fans are not happy. Shout out Dr. Dan up there in Edgewater. I'm sure he's been bitching and complaining about the offseason moves. I mean, they didn't really add that much. They did add Mark Glowinski from the Indianapolis Colts at the guard position, and they added Evan Neal in the draft, who's a ground and pound guy from Alabama. So let's see how this team does. And Kayvon Thibodeau obviously adding some pass rush. The Giants have a formula that they like to use. I mean, it's all about pass rush and getting to the quarterback. So let's see. But it all depends on their quarterback, who is Daniel Jones. Their offense has great receivers. They have a good tight end in Ricky Seals-Jones. But it all depends on this offensive line. Saquon Barkley, if he can run and set up the pass for Daniel Jones. But this over-under sits at 7.5. I don't like this team. I think that they're going to underperform again, and that is because of Daniel Jones. They went out and got Tyrod Taylor, who is a great backup quarterback. He can really manage the game, and if Daniel Jones turns the ball over, I wouldn't be surprised to see Tyrod Taylor in some of these games next year, especially with Daboll at the helm, having worked with Tyrod up in Buffalo. So, Daboll is going to have to make some hard coaching decisions, and they're not going to be from the booth this time because he's not going to be looking down on Josh Allen throwing the ball. He gets a huge drop off in Daniel Jones. So 7.5 seems pretty steep. I think they play some tough divisions here, the NFC North and the AFC South, which they don't match up very well with. So I'm going to go with the under 7.5 for the New York Giants. All right, next up, we got the Commanders. Commanders also sit at 7.5. They did not like Heineke's performance. I beg to differ with that, but they went and got Carson Wentz, who a lot of teams didn't like when they were playing with him. So Carson Wentz, I don't see a huge influx in talent here. I think Heineke could definitely fill the void here, but Carson Wentz has played on a winning team in the Eagles, and he definitely did some good things in Indianapolis last year. So he did have some crucial turnovers late in games, but let's see if this pans out for them. I think that the Commanders are really looking for their franchise quarterback probably next year in the draft. I think you're going to see a drop-off from this team. They won 7 games last year. I don't see them winning 6. I think that their schedule is pretty tough. They don't match up well. Let's see what this team can do. I mean, they didn't really have any additions. The defense kind of stayed the same. Hopefully they get Chase Young back from injury. I think he'll come back in the middle of the season and add some depth to that defensive line. But Yeah, Jahan Dotson is going to be great wide receiver across from Terry McLaurin. So they got a young core. Terry McLaurin just signed an extension. But 7.5 seems pretty steep here. I think that I would go with the under. The under here. All right. And let's wrap up the NFC East here with the banger best bet. My banger best bet is going to be the Dallas Cowboys under 10.5. Like I said, I think they're talented, but I don't think they have enough talent to win 11 games this year. So I am going to go with the banger best bet as the Dallas Cowboys under 10.5. All right. So let us go to the AFC East. We are going to be breaking down the AFC East. We got the Bills, we got the Jets, we got the Dolphins, and we got the Patriots. So let's start off with the front runner for the division, the Buffalo Bills. They sit at over under 11.5. I really like this team. I think this team's going to go to the Super Bowl. I think they have a chance to win it. I did say that in another episode with the Chargers. I think it's going to be the Chargers and the Bills in the AFC Championship. To be honest, and I think that the additions that the Bills made were the right additions for this year. I think they're in it for the long hauls here. So they got Von Miller on the defensive end, so they'll get some pass rush with their defense. They won't have to rely on their outstanding secondary anymore. So hopefully he stays healthy and he can get to the quarterback. They got Roger Saffold at the guard position, which they needed to address. There was a lot of interior rushes for Josh Allen that had him go in and out of the pocket. So let's see. I think this team is going to be worth watching. They're going to be a high-powered offense. I think they're going to run away with this division, and I see them going over the 11.5 wins. Their over-under was set to the same 11.5 last year. They actually went under. They won 11 games last year, so. But I see this team going up to maybe 13 games and going 13-4. Their division is the division opponents they play is the NFC North and the AFC North. The AFC North is a middle of the pack division. Again, it's going to be very strong it's going to be very strong and physical, but I think that the AFC North does not match up well with the Buffalo Bills, and they also play the NFC North. The only team that can give the Bills any shot at competitive advantage there, I think, would be the Green Bay Packers with Aaron Rodgers at the helm. But let's go with the Buffalo Bills, and we're going with over 11.5. Okay, now we have the New York Jets, everybody's favorite team, Jets, Jets, and we have a over-under sitting at 5.5. All right, this team, I don't know what to make of it, but they got City Boy Zach Wilson. So City Boy's up. Shout out to Zach. He's been making some headlines for the right reasons, so good for him. And they got some key additions as well. They got C.J. Uzomah from the Cincinnati Bengals. They made some good draft moves, getting Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson. They got some O-line help, so a lot of their O-line is healthy, and Mekhi Becton is going to be starting at the tackle position, which is good outside of Fant. So those two linemen look to be very stout on the offensive side, and they addressed the safety issues that they had late last year. Their safeties were giving up so many big plays last year, and they couldn't get a win. So they got Jordan Whitehead out of Tampa Bay, and they got LaMarcus Joyner to join their squad as well. So it looks like this team is going to be pretty good, actually. Honestly, 5.5 is really low for the Jets. I mean, obviously this depends on Zach Wilson and how good he can perform, but I think they have the talent, and I think the coaching staff definitely has a hold on what Zach can do. I think they're going to see a lot of him going outside of the pocket. They're going to try to establish the run with Becton in the fold now. So let's see what this Jets team can do. But they do play the AFC North and the NFC North. I think the NFC North and AFC North don't actually match up well with the Jets. The Jets have all the key cogs they need to be successful against these teams, and the running back position is a lot of pass catchers, so I think they're going to be a West Coast offense this year. I think you're going to see Zach throw the ball a lot, and I am leaning for the over 5.5. I like the over in the New York Jets, over 5.5 again. So let's go with that one. And we will kick it back to the Miami Dolphins over here. Over under 8.5. Funny team. I don't know what to think of them. They fired a good coach in Brian Flores. I mean, he won 8 of their last 9 games after starting 1-7. He really turned that team around. But it looks like it's time to move forward in Miami, and they hired a new coach. And they got some key additions at the receiver position, especially with Tyreek Hill, who is one of the most dynamic players in the NFL. They got Cedric Wilson, and they also got, again, Connor Williams, who I talked about earlier with Dallas Cowboys. He came over from the Cowboys and joins that offensive line to back up Tua. So offensive additions were plenty, but nothing really changed on the defensive side. The Dolphins' playbook is easy to read now. Their defense blitzes a lot and frequently. Let's see if that changes with this coaching staff, but I think they're going to remain the same with their defensive talent that they have. I think their defense is pretty good when it can get to the quarterback under 5 seconds, but I don't think that's going to be the case this year. I think that this win total is going to be under the 8.5. It all depends on Tua again, and Tua doesn't always make the quickest decisions. He does have some O-line support now with Connor Williams, but I think this Dolphins team is going to go under the win total. I don't see them getting anywhere close to 9 wins this year. They do play the Dolphins twice. They'll play the Jets away on the road. They'll play the Patriots twice, and they also have, again, the AFC North, which actually they do not match up well with Lamar Jackson being so accurate on the Ravens side. Now in training camp, we're getting stories out of him, and especially if the Steelers play late in the season, we'll see a little bit of Kenny Pickett action. So I'm really high on Kenny Pickett, and we'll talk about him later. But I would like to see. But I think that Miami is going to go under that win total, so under 8.5. And next up, last but not least, we got the New England Patriots and Bill Belichick. This win total sits at 8.5. The Patriots did win 10 games last year. Mac Jones was easily the front runner for Rookie of the Year. Kind of fell off a little bit when they had to focus more on the run game with the weather conditions up there in New England. But they did get some additions in Devontae Parker from the Dolphins, and they got Mac Wilson as the Mike linebacker up in he was in Cleveland, and now he joins Bill Belichick and his coaching staff. Funny addition to get Matt Patricia back to New England. I'm sure that was a Belichick doing. But this over-under sits at 8.5. This team, again, depends on the quarterback, depends on how Mac Jones is playing out of camp. It looks like he's been pretty good, pretty accurate, and he's in the best shape of his life, apparently, according to Bill. So let's see how this team does. 8.5 is a steep number. I would probably go with the over here. I think they can get 9 wins in this division. I think they're going to play hard. They didn't make that many off-season additions, but they did keep core guys on the offensive line and the defensive side of the ball with their defensive line and linebackers as well. And adding Mac Wilson is always a huge plus. So I would like to see this go over, but by a smidge. I think maybe 9 to 10 wins. We'll see. But the New England Patriots, I'm going with the over 8.5. So there you have it to wrap up the AFC East. Banger best bet coming up for the AFC East. I'm going with the New York Jets over 5.5 as my banger best bet for the AFC East. I think this Jets team is going to be be very stunning. I think they're going to actually surprise a lot of folks out there and cover the spread definitely as much as in the earlier part of the season. You'll see probably those spreads decline as they win some games, but I am going to go with the New York Jets over 5.5. So there you have it. Break down the NFC East and the AFC East. Banger best bets again are the New York Jets over 5.5 and the Dallas Cowboys under 10.5. All right, so subscribe, comment, leave any feedback you want on the podcast, and next week I'll see you and we'll do 2 divisions again. It's been a pleasure. Thanks again to my family and friends. And deuces. We'll see you next week.